Hello and welcome to this foam rolling workout. My name is Matt Gleed, and today I'm going to take you through a foam rolling workout where we're going to use different rolling techniques, we're going to use different mobility techniques, and a little bit of breathing help on the way as well. Now, let's start off with just a little state of the industry here. There is so many foam rollers that you can pick up from supermarkets, from sports shops, and they all have some different grooves and knobbly bits which will help have a different effect on your body. Now, in a nutshell, a lot of these will have different properties and they are designed for different reasons. But ultimately, when you're working with a foam roller, it doesn't matter if it's a short or long version. You are looking for something that is going to be used, and often it's the way that you use it which is the important part. So join me in this little flow through a few different foam rolling positions, and we can start to discover exactly how you could be using some of these different devices as well. Now the first thing we're going to do is we're going to start with a little bit of mobility of the body, and we're going to use the foam roller just positioned down on the floor. Now I'm using a mat just to make it a little bit more comfortable, but if you wanted to, you could use a towel on the floor as well. Now the first thing we're going to do is something called a cat-cow. So quite simply, as you can see, I'm just starting to tuck my chin in towards my chest, and I'm going to rise up through my spine. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to just adjust my spine and raise my head up. So it's alternating the head and almost the shoulder positions so that the thoracic spine is the top of your spine, and that's the area that we're just trying to create some mobility in as well. Now when you're doing these movements, I've got a slight softness in my elbow, so try not to lock out your elbows at all. And I want you just to work with your eyes gazing up as high as they can, and then draw a straight line down the side of the wall, through the floor, with laser focus vision in between your knees, and then again roll your eyes upwards and just start to explore how that starts to feel on your body. Now it's very easy to do a lot of these positions quickly and without too much focus, but if you can just bring your attention as to how your body is reacting as you move in and out of these positions, you're going to find so much more value and benefit from doing it all as well. So these cat-cow positions is a really good way just to settle into the body and just start to see how it feels. Now one of the things that is important to work on here is it's not about how many repetitions you do, it's about trying to move in and out of these positions, trying to develop that range of motion, and this has an incredible feedback in something called a neurological sense. And what that's doing is the spine is a protective mechanism around the nerves which travel obviously from your brain all the way through the body. So if we can create some mobility around it and take away tension and take away any almost stiffness in and around those muscular areas as they start to get overworked when we start to work on our athletic, maybe that be on rower or off rower in the gym. When you're starting to work in all these different positions, it's all about trying to fix the body and prevent it from taking any of those little niggles and knocks and strains and turning them into long-term injuries as well. Okay, now after completing this next cat-cow, just bring yourself back to the center, and you've done a great job already. Now the next one we're going to have a look at is called a thoracic twist. So what we're going to do is we're going to keep one hand, but I'm just going to bring it into the center of the foam roller. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to reach my arm up and create as much range of movement as I can. So create height up towards the ceiling. Then from here, I want you to thread your arm underneath your armpit as far as it can go. Now I want you to reach it down towards the floor. Now on the next time, as you rotate that same arm up as high as it can, just start to see whether your hips are rotating. The goal here is to rotate through the upper spine. So we're actually working down through the body through this whole flow. But what I'm looking for you to do is just to find a position where you can be sustainable and trying to keep your hips still and make the work come into that thoracic spine position is goal. And if that goal can be achieved, you're doing a great amount of work already. Now again, I'm not holding you for a period of time on these. I mean, if you wanted to, you could set a timer for a minute on each side. But really what you're looking to do is just to feel how your body is working. If you rush through these movements, you're not really going to gain the benefit. It's all about moving with purpose and being very mindful about how your body is reacting to these little stretches, for these little adjustments that your body is making all the time. Okay, now finishing this next rotation, I'm going to swap my arms over and I'm going to invite you to the same. So same thing again, reaching up as high as you can And then again, as you reach underneath, you're threading your arm as if it was threading the needle, trying to keep the hips still, but the rotation comes through your spine. And again, the goal is to create motion through the thoracic spine. This is the top of the spine. This is an area which really takes a lot of work when we're rowing. It takes a lot of work when you're in the gym doing your big lifts. And this is a lot of work to undo some of the stresses and strains of modern life, where you're on a phone, in front of a desk, or even relaxing in front of the TV. These are the mobility drills that you're going to need to create the most supple body that you can to maximize your athletic performance and really try and develop what your body can do. So it doesn't matter if you're a young athlete and you're already quite supple, or if you're an experienced athlete and you've been doing work for a long period of time. Everybody can start to work on the mobility. In fact, I'm pretty confident that you could almost replace every single waking hour with working on your body's mobility and still never quite get to the ability that some people have. But sometimes it's not the destination, it's the journey. And we want you to try and work on weaknesses to build you to be a better athlete each time. Good work. Okay, so that's your thoracic twist. Next up, we're going to have a look at a quad and a hip flexor release. So you can see I've just brought the foam roller a little bit closer towards me, and I'm going to bring myself over the top of the foam roller so that it sits underneath my quads. So the quads is the mid-thigh, and what I'm looking for you to do to begin with just is bring yourself into a low plank position. So I've got my forearms onto the floor, and I'm going to open my hands and press them down. Now, instead of creating a fist, I want you just to make sure that the hands stay apart, and I'm just going to bring one leg in towards my hip, and then I'm going to extend the leg. Now, for some people, this will feel like nothing, and that's absolutely fine. But the one thing I want you to be mindful of is, even if it feels like nothing at the moment, is it in the right position? Now, to find the right position, we want you to work in a way that you are starting to challenge the body, where you might feel a little bit of discomfort. I mean, some people have expressed that they felt almost like a clicking in the muscle and in the joints when they've worked in these positions. This is all about unlocking tension in the muscles. So if you find you're in a position which feels comfortable, try that foam roller in a different position, and sometimes just an inch forwards or backwards can really start to work. One of my favourite techniques to work with when I'm doing foam rolling is to do a repetition range of around about 3 to 6 repetitions, and then just adjust another inch and then work on that new position again. So we're going to take our time and just work in these positions, and again, every 3 to 6 repetitions I'm just adjusting the position of the foam roller, just rolling it down my thighs just about an inch. And again, the whole goal behind this is just to find a position that needs to be worked. You may have heard of it being expressed as knots. Now, sometimes you often get a knot in a muscle, and what that really means is you're just finding something where there is a little bit of scar tissue being built up, whether there is a little tangle of some of the fascia, which is the tissue that connects all of the muscles and all the tissues together. And sometimes what they need is just a little bit of compression and a little bit of range of movement, and that can really help. Okay, let's swap it over to the opposite side. So same thing, I'm just going to position myself into a comfortable position. So I've just rolled my foam roller up by a couple of inches there, and I'm going to work on that rep range of 3 to 6 repetitions. And then what I'm going to do is just start to change the position. Now, if you feel like this isn't enough pressure and you would almost want more, this is where some of the little knobbly bits on some of the foam rollers, some of the protrusions as they get called, some of those can actually put a little bit more pressure. But at the same time, for some people who find it's too much pressure, you might find that you want to come off the foam roller a little bit more and maybe just work on a different intensity. And that can sometimes be about suspending your body off the foam roller a little bit more. So sometimes maybe putting your foot onto the floor on the opposite leg just to brace some of that weight as well. So I'm just going to foam roll the next inch down. And again, I've still got my shoulder blades pulled back and down, so I'm not adding tension into the neck, especially after we've just released that thoracic spine. I don't want to add any pressure or tension to that as well. So it's just about controlled movement here. Check in with your body, just have a little bit of an internal moment where you just start to almost See how your body's reacting. If you're holding tension in your glutes, are you tightening and pushing into the floor? Can you release the tension around your neck or shoulders? Just tune into your body, see how it feels and see what you can do about it. Okay, I'm going to roll an inch a little bit lower. Have a go there as well. Now, when we're doing rowing, we often work on our hip flexors by going into the drive phase. And as soon as you start to flex into that hip joint, that hip flexor can get tight. So the quad often has to do a lot of the work, and it can often be responsible for adding in a lot of tension into that hip flexor. So in this position, if you wanted to get that hip flexor to stretch a little bit more, one of the things that I could encourage you to do is to bring yourself up into an extended arm position. Now, by going into that extended arm position, be mindful about your shoulder blades being back and down. Eyes can gaze up a little bit across the wall. But by going in and out of these different positions now, you add a little bit more length to that hip flexor. And you might actually start to find that the range of movement that you're bending your knee starts to change. Sometimes when you lengthen that hip flexor, it can tighten through the quad, and that can affect that range of movement that you have as well. So just spending a little bit of time either on the floor or in that extended position will really benefit you as you create length in the torso. It has a massive effect on the hips and on the knee flexion as well. Now, as we start to roll down through the body, we're going to now jump to the shoulders. And the reason for this is going from the quads to the shoulders, this is a great way to now create a little bit of stability around the hips as well. So I'm just going to roll the foam roller forwards, and I'm going to place my forearms on it. Now, one of the things that we know about rowing is that it can take a lot of time to build up the stability around the shoulders, but also it takes a lot of added tension into the forearms. So what I want you to do is just to roll the forearms just forwards and backwards. And again, if we think about that range of 3 to 6 repetitions, so this would almost be referred to as a child's pose in yoga. So leaning over the top of the foam roller, rolling the forearms up and down, and I'm creating that motion, moving forwards up and down, by using my hips and my knees just to rock forwards and backwards. Now, if there is a position where you find is particularly tight, or where you need to release it on the forearms, just spend a little bit of time just breathing into that and be mindful about it. And after 3 to 5 deep, slow breaths, you'll probably find it starts to ease out. Now I'm going to ask you to turn your palms facing each other. Okay, once you've got your palms facing each other, just start to find a position where you feel comfortable and stable. And your goal here is to lift one arm off the floor, but without the shoulders or the hips starting to tilt or rotate. Now place that arm back down onto the roller, and let's lift the opposite arm up off. And you're going to start to feel something called the tremor of truth. Now, the tremor of truth is when your body starts to shake because it's working. You're putting actually a lot of tension and load. Now, the goal here is to keep the hips stable, keep the shoulders stable, and to lift the forearm off the foam roller, just so you can start to work on stability around the hips and shoulders, but also start to challenge some of these postural muscles all the way down through the shoulder, down through the spine. Now, your eyes should be gazing right in the middle of where your foam roller, your arms, and your chest. If there was a square out in front of you, it would directly be in the middle of that square. That's where your eyes are gazing. And as you start to lift that arm, I'm just alternating. I'm holding for again 3 to 6 seconds. Bring it back down and then swap it over to the opposite side. And again, this is a very active position. It looks like a very easy exercise, and I'm sure some of you could get away with just mimicking this movement without actually working into it. But the goal is the stability of hips and shoulders, but at the same time creating that little bit of mobility, a bit of stability through the back of the shoulder, and working on resisting rotation in this position. Great job. Okay, let's roll that back in towards you. Roll up throughout the spine. Good job. And just release the shoulders there. Just circle them backwards, just so it feels a little bit more comfortable. Now, at this point, we're going to take you into a bit of rocking. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit over the top of the foam roller. And this time, I'm actually going to put the foam roller right underneath my glutes. So this glute rock it's going to be in a position where I'm going to take one foot across my thigh and I'm going to lean over onto the butt cheek of the leg that has crossed over the top. Okay, so I'll refer to this. This is my right foot. I'm over onto my right butt cheek. I've got my arms behind me, and all I'm looking to do is to find a position to rock forwards and backwards. So I'm using the work by the foot that is on the floor. So this foot is actually just putting a little bit of pressure into the floor, and that allows me to rock forwards and backwards. Now at the moment I'm working quite high up at the top of my glute. Now one of the things that you can do on here is you can not only just rock forwards and backwards like I'm doing at the moment, but if I pause at a point where I find that the muscles are starting to meet and cross over, then what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to rock from side to side. Now again, what this is so good for is that we have to appreciate that the way that your muscles are set up is rocking forwards and backwards isn't always the one way that we can work. There are so many different directions that the muscles can move. And in fact, over 80% of the muscles in your body lie in something called diagonal orientation, which means that they cross over a lot. So if we can rock forwards and backwards and side to side, we actually get something called cross fiction, which is fantastic for releasing tension in all different planes of movement as well. It's a really effective way of working on here. Now once you've finished in that position, we just change the hand position, and I'm just into a different part of the glute muscles. And again, I'm still working on that right butt cheek. So again, rock forwards and backwards, and I'm working with my breath. It's not about small rolls here. I'm trying to roll over, and if I find that little knot or an area where I've a little bit more of discomfort, I'm just going to pause there for a second. And then once I've got that position, instead of just rocking forwards and backwards, which is almost like a deep tissue massage, which is one way, but I'm going to now start to rock side to side and start to explore how that feels and just start to see if it eases off. Now the nice thing about foam rollers these days is that they come in so many sizes in terms of large ones or small ones, as you can see behind me. But indeed, you can also use balls as well. So there are massage rollers and massage balls, some of them which are vibrational now. You can even use something called percussion therapy, which is almost like a massage gun. And they are really effective for all releasing tension and muscles as well. So in terms of where we're working at the moment, this is the same effect whether you'd be using a ball or a gun to be working into those areas. Okay, now we're going to swap over the legs. And I'm going to shift over. So now I've got my left foot crossed over. I'm going to rock forwards and backwards on that left butt cheek. And again, 3 to 6 repetitions, just finding a position that feels. So I'm working quite high up on the butt muscle at the moment. So from where the top of my hip bones are, I'm working almost that high up. And then from there, once I've done my 3 to 6 movements here, and sometimes I find one side is better than the other. Sometimes it has more knots. This one feels a little bit clearer. I'm going to just start to rock from side to side in that position again. And sometimes if you can't find a particular area, it's not necessarily a bad thing. You're just looking to see if there is an area. Let's call it a hot spot. And if you find that hot spot, just work into that. I often get the feedback that a lot of people have got a foam roller at home, but they don't really know how to use it. So just follow this guide. You could be doing this while you're watching TV in the evenings. Just going to adjust again, so find that next position. 3 to 6 rolls up and down. So yeah, as you're watching TV, this is the time to get the foam roller out. Just start to work on these things. You can always play this on a device where you can watch on your mobile or on your tablet, and then just follow along and just start to feel the benefit of working on your body, improving that athletic ability. Okay, I'm going to start to just rock side to side on that bottom section of the glutes now. And it's just about trying to find a position where you can work. If you ever find that you're foam rolling and you end up holding your breath, there's a big signal that you're probably on a point and it's too intense. And what I want you to do is, instead of just stopping the foam rolling, carry on, but try and take some of your body weight off that one area. You'll probably find that you should be able to talk or breathe all the way through, so that way you're mindful on how your body does feel it as well. Okay, so I'm going to just drop my seat bone onto the floor. I'm going to roll the foam roller all the way down to my calves now. So again, the calf's quite a long muscle, so we need to work it in different stages. So we're going to start fairly high, and what I'm going to do to begin with is just place my hands behind me just to support me. Now, for some people, they won't feel this, in which case then you might need to lift off the floor. So just push your hands into the floor to lift you up. Now, for some people, this will be too much discomfort, in which case then, all I'm going to encourage you to do is place one foot on the floor, and again, you can then use your foot on the floor just to ease off some of the weight distribution that you've got on the foam roller and going through the muscle. So all we're looking to do now is just a rock 3 to 6 movements up and down. So again, if you're doing this in a single leg, that's great. If you're doing it with both legs at the same time, then that's not a problem as well. It just requires a little bit more work for your upper body. And if you find that your wrists get into a discomfortable position, or it's uncomfortable just to hold this in your shoulders at all, then again, lower yourself down onto the floor, unload the body if you need to, and just maybe rock into that position while it's on the floor. There is always going to be a little bit of movement. You don't always have to hold your body weight off the floor. Okay, so let's move the foam roller down a little bit more. Now, I know as a runner, this is definitely going to find a little bit more discomfort for me. So this is where I need to really pay attention as to how I'm going to breathe. So if you don't feel this, then maybe go into a single leg. Okay, now one of the ways that you can do this is you can put one foot over the top of your thigh and again rock forwards and backwards. What that does is you're using your second limb to put a little bit more external pressure on that limb that is on the foam roller. So just a little bit of usage of your body weight just to develop that a little bit more. But again, if that's too much, separate, or alternatively bring the foot onto the floor just to ease out the pressure as well. Okay, now let's make sure we've done both sides and they feel comfortable. So again, I'm just going to have a go on this one side as well. And you might start to find that if you've ever had any previous injuries around your ankle, this can all start to feed up through how the calf feels as well. So really important that if you ever wanted to increase your ankle mobility, trying to reduce the amount of tension that you hold in your calf could be the secret into giving you a little bit more ankle mobility as well. So that can be really effective. Okay, now I'm going to put both feet on here and I'm just going to roll the foam roller down the calves a little bit more. Now, I'm going to separate my feet, and what I'm going to do here is I'm going to start to point my toes away, and then I'm going to draw a line up towards my forehead, and then again extend the toes away. So it's not always about rolling, and it's not always about the effect that you have on the roller, but sometimes just moving the muscles up and down. And this is, again, some of the grooves that you have on the foam rollers are designed exactly for this. What they're going to do is it's going to increase the blood flow to the area. It's going to start to have an effect where you are mindful about the tension, and your body just brings a level of attention where if it needs to send a little bit more hormones into that area just so that they can reduce the inflammation, then that's a really good way of sending those signals and being mindful about it. Now, after pointing the toes, what we're going to try and do now is to create circles, okay? And again, one of the things that you can do is if you are not feeling this that much, you could cross your foot over and again, still do the circle on one leg. But the benefit of this is, again, that extra little bit of pressure on your foot. So as the calf is pressed against the foam roller, because of that external pressure, that second limb is on top of it, it adds in a lot more work. And that can be really beneficial as well. The only thing you need to do is make sure that you are rotating your ankle, not only clockwise, but anti-clockwise as well. And you can, again, feel that pressure. And this is where, if you can, think about large circles. Try not to just rush through the movement. Be mindful about what does it feel like when you get to a certain clock time. So if you think about a giant clock, is it at 12 o'clock it feels good, but yet when you get to around about 2 o'clock it starts to feel tough, or maybe around about 10 o'clock it starts to feel like you've got a little knot in there. They're the sort of things that you've got to be mindful of and start to be careful about working on as well. And just take your time building into this regularly. Okay, now we've got one more thing that we're going to have a look at today, which is just about breath work. So we're going to finish this video by working on your breath. So I'll take this opportunity to thank you very much for joining me on today's flow. This is all about recovery, and I invite you to try and do this regularly. And we're going to literally spend the next couple of minutes led down. We're going to put the foam roller just underneath the knees, and I want you to lie down onto the floor and place your palms face up. And I want you just to close your eyes. And just start to move your thoughts to your breath. Think about breathing in through your nose in a 4 count. And then breathing out through your mouth again with a 4 count. So we're just trying to cycle this breath. Breathe in and exhale. Breathe in through your nose. Breathe out through your mouth. Inhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Exhale. 1, 2, 3, 4. Inhale and exhale. Be aware of how much your ribs expand as you inhale, and feel your stomach work as you exhale. Breathe out and really feel that work come into your stomach. Breathe in. Feel your tummy up full of air. Exhale, push all that air out. As you inhale, feel your chest, feel your stomach. Exhale, release all of your air. Work hard to get rid of that oxygen. And then recycle it again, breathe it all in. Exhale. Bring your awareness to your fingers, just moving them slowly. Bring your awareness to your feet. Just start to awaken your body. As and when you feel comfortable, just roll the foam roller away from the back of your knees. Just use your feet as you roll that away. And then roll onto your side. Support yourself as you bring yourself back up to a seated position. Thank you for joining us for this British rowing workout.